Pokemon has gone too far. It is quite literally the largest media franchise on the planet, which means it's pretty alright at making money by selling you a variety of toys, games, and plushies, in addition to covering literally every other human need, from food to toilet paper to clean up the results of said food, and even clothing for the more boldly inclined of us. That's not me though. I would look less like a Marill and more like a bloated blue Snorlax. So I guess a shiny Snorlax at least, so that's something. But the point is, if you can think of a thing that exists, then at some stage in human history, I guarantee you a Pikachu has been on that thing. But I'm here specifically to call out the absolute rot that is Pokemon cards. These gorgeous thin pieces of rectangular cardboard are not quite as innocent as they may seem.
So they're called trading cards.
Mm-hmm. It's a really difficult and expensive hobby to go about and collect.
I've been spending anywhere between $600 to $800 to complete a set.
$1,275.07.
And you can't find it for less than 2.5 times MSRP.
Do not buy booster packs. Don't open things yourself.
So what's in here? What's going on?
You got a secret card.
How rare exactly are we talking about?
In some cases, even fighting over these valuable cards.
Violent.
There was even a man who pulled a gun on another customer just to get Pokemon cards.
Frothing out the mouth.
Not quite yet.
Cthulhu.
Pokemon cards were my first serious endeavor into the world of collecting in general. They were my gateway into Magic the Gathering and inevitably my gateway out of Magic the Gathering when I got sick of Magic inevitably. But Pokemon cards, mate, they look good, they feel good, and the game, it is shockingly fun to play. Even as a dude in his 30s, there is still more than enough complex decision making to keep me interested in playing the game. My issue is that I'm more of a collector than I am a player, and collecting Pokemon cards is one of the most dangerous and insidious hobbies one can have, because collecting even one whole set could cost quite literally thousands of Australian dollary dues. It is actively impossible for an average person to collect Pokemon cards, and I believe that the Pokemon Company does everything in their power to keep it this way, with one of the major issues being their rarity structure. Now, all trading card games tend to follow a very uniform framework in regards to this, at least in the beginning, where you'll generally have 3 types of cards: commons, uncommons, and rares. And let's say, for argument's sake, a standard booster pack could contain 5 common cards, 3 uncommons, and 1 rare. Sort of like a funky satisfying pyramid structure, with your base layer of commons, your middle layer of whatevers, and then the glorious rare at the apex. And to be fair, this is how Pokemon started out almost 30 years ago now, but over time the game has to change and evolve, otherwise people will lose interest. So over the past 3 decades, Pokemon has slowly been introducing new tiers of rarity. I want to emphasize that this was a very slow burn process, but the modern day rarity structure of Pokemon looks a lot more like this. You've got your commons, uncommons, rares, holo rares, reverse holo rares, ultra rares, full art ultra rares, rainbow full art ultra rares, alternate art ultra rares, and sitting right at the apex are secret rares. So I just want to point out that the word rare appears in 8 out of the 10 card types. So weirdly enough, it's actually rarer to encounter the word common, and very common to encounter the word rare. And this isn't an exhaustive list, by the way. There's also promo cards which can range across the whole rarity spectrum, often sold exclusively in these big bulky box things. And then there's all sorts of other left field cards and different sets introduce different gimmicks, and also I might not have gotten the order of the rarity exactly right, because there is a difference between official rarity labeled on the card and the actual rarity of the pull rates, which vary from set to set. But I do find it a bit weird that in this day and age, the cards that we designate as just rare are actually the 3rd most common type of the 10. It's gotten so bad that I actually tend to subdivide the rares into common rares, uncommon rares, rare rares, and ultra rare rares, which is very fun to say, but very annoying to collect. Because the issue is that our pyramid structure of rarity now resembles more of a luxury high-rise apartment, with each new floor of rarity being an order of magnitude more exclusive and expensive than the last. And one of my biggest personal issues with this is that it makes the process of opening packs much less fun, because I am genuinely disappointed every time I crack open a pack and it's only a rare. Because in this system, the rare isn't actually rare. I would define it more as an uncommon common, because there are still a whole 7 tiers of rarity left above it. And this applies even to ultra rares, because if I open a standard ultra rare, well, yeah, that's kind of cool. It's something, it's the baseline, but it's also kind of boring because we've only hit the halfway mark of our high rise. You know, it's an ultra rare, but it's not a full art ultra rare, it's not a rainbow ultra rare, it's not an alternate art ultra rare, and it certainly is not a secret rare. It's just an ultra rare, which to me is just an uncommon rare. And considering just how hard it can be to hit these higher tiers of rarity, even when opening an entire box, it really devalues the experience for me, because all of the cards I'm encountering that are technically rare end up being worth about as much to me as the commons. I also don't think it helps that often these increasing rarity tiers of cards are just variations of cards. In fact, most of them are not unique. More often than not, you can find yourself with the same card reprinted across across 4 different rarities, which can be really cool, but also really, really redundant. But it very much reminds me of that episode of The Simpsons where everyone gets excited about buying the same Malibu Stacy doll because she's got a new hat. It's the same Rayquaza I had before, but now he has a new hat. To be fair, if they printed Rayquaza with a hat, I would be all over that. And as a collector, as cool as the variants are, I find it really frustrating that I'm always seemingly on the hunt to find essentially the same card that I already have. And in addition to that, it makes opening up even a basic version of that card more underwhelming, because I know that there are like 3 rarer versions of that card. And speaking of collecting, this is why it's nigh on impossible to collect even one entire set. For example, the latest expansion at the time of this recording is Silver Tempest, and if we look at the stats, there are 53 common cards, 56 uncommon cards, 21 rares, 32 ultra rares, which I just want to point out, by sheer numbers alone, ultra rares are more common in this set than basic rares. But to make up for that, we have rare holos, rare holo Vs, rare radiants, rare holo V max, rare rainbows, and of course, our delightful secret rares. And adding them all up, there are 136 cards in this set designated as some form of rare, which is more than both the common and uncommon cards combined. The rares are the most common. It's at the point where you could collect every single common and uncommon and still not even be 50% towards completing the set. In fact, you could collect all the commons, uncommons, and basic rares and still only barely be over the halfway mark. This is unbalanced. It's weird when the most common cards in the set are the rares, and I think that can definitely get a bit overwhelming.
Lost Thunder has 13 GXs, 7 Prism cards, 19 full arts, and 21 secret rares. Bear in mind, from a single booster box, which is by itself about £100 on release, you might get 1, maybe 2 full arts if you're lucky, possibly a secret rare. I like collecting things, but can you see why I felt a bit overwhelmed?
I really like collecting things when it's actually possible to collect them. And unfortunately, this escalating rarity tier also dramatically increases the price of cards when trying to buy them individually. Because even if they're not playable, a certain rarity will guarantee a certain base price. And if they are playable, then oh my god. You could be spending literally hundreds of dollars, US dollars as well, not my weird Australian currency. You could be spending hundreds of real dollars to acquire a weird rare variant of a particular card. Just one. Which is why I've really come to despise the secret rare energies in particular, because again, yes, they're pretty cool, but energies will always be playable, which means that these will always command a hefty price. I'm looking at some of them now, and I'm seeing a lot around the $50 mark in my Australian money, which I actually think is far more reasonable than they used to be priced as. But that's $50 for one card. So if we do some maths here, there are say 20 secret rares in a set, then that's a lot of money. A whole 1,000 Australian dollary dues to be precise, and that's assuming that they all stay at the $50 price. To be fair, some of them are going to dip lower if they're completely unplayable junk, but also some are going to be astronomically higher. And I'm just talking about acquiring a full set of the secret rares. This doesn't even begin to include the cost of the lower tier rares, which do significantly add up. And it's at the point where there is an entire video genre on YouTube dedicated to offering advice on how to collect Pokemon cards in the most optimal way.
Do not buy booster packs. Don't open things yourself. This is never the cheapest or most affordable way to buy a complete set.
Of course, if you are trying to complete a Pokemon card set, you want to wait until the set is out of the standard format. Usually that is 2 to 3 years after a set is released. Out of the standard format just means that it won't be in high demand by competitive players of the Pokemon TCG.
So 2 very genuinely good pieces of advice there. Don't open boosters and wait until the set is out of standard rotation. That is definitely the optimal way to collect. However, that advice basically amounts to don't engage in the actual hobby. Opening packs, again, for me at least, is easily the most fun part of any TCG. I get far more satisfaction from doing that than I would ordering an entire set off eBay 2 years after it comes out, and that reality is really kind of a hobby killer for me. The idea that the only realistic time to engage is long after everyone else has stopped caring and the prices drop. Because a lot of the fun also comes from remaining current and exploring new sets as they come out, which is roughly 1 every 3 months, by the way. There's about 4 expansions a year. So in total, if I'm not prepared to spend about 10,000 Australian dollars a year, then I'm not really in a position to be collecting these things. The rarity tier system has just made it economically unfeasible. But also, it's not just Pokemon themselves. We as consumers also have our own unique ways of ruining everything. One of which is scalpers inflating prices by scooping up products in bulk on release.
That means cards are getting harder and harder to find, frustrating parents and kids who just want to play the game.
And in some cases, even fighting over these valuable cards.
Violent.
Walmart and Target have actually had to stop selling these because people were making a mess in the store and even getting violent. And those weren't kids, those were adults. There was even a man who pulled a gun on another customer just to get Pokemon cards.
Now, to be fair, I'm pretty sure that in America, pulling a gun in a public space is just how you guys seem to say hello. But Kmart and Target actually did this. They had to stop selling Pokemon cards because scalpers and speculators kept treating their stores like a glory hole, endlessly sucking up every product they could. And we even have this wild clip of grown men raiding a Walmart for cards.
If they're running, I'm running. I'm not getting in that. No fucking way, dude. I am not doing that. Holy shit.
As a married man in his 30s who enjoys collecting Pokemon cards, this is sad. It's just sad. I would be so embarrassed if I bolted into a Walmart to physically fight other grown men for cardboard. And here's the thing, it's not entirely nefarious. Yeah, a lot of them are gonna have plans of reselling the stock at an inflated price, but the thing is that it also puts immense pressure on people who just want to have the product, because they know that unless they get their product immediately, then they're the ones who are going to end up paying those inflated prices. So it creates this really vicious cycle. And one where the people who suffer the most are the intended market of the cards, kids. The people who these cards make happiest are the ones that end up being locked out of this hobby. And yeah, there are always arguments like maybe the Pokemon company should have higher print runs, and maybe stores should have more space for stock, but neither of those would actually solve the problem. It would just give the scalpers and speculators more product to scoop up. And my current feelings on this matter can probably be summed up by the following clip.
I'm so mad. I have multiple stores from where I live not having Shining Fates or any TCG. I've even called stores outside my city just to try and get some, and they're sold out as well. Then I hear from store owners that people are beating each other up just to get cards. This is getting way out of hand. I might just give up on Pokemon altogether because it's not worth getting beat up for cards.
That's kind of where I am. I think that this hobby currently for me is unsustainable. Even under the best conditions, the price for collecting is too high, because that price is either economic units or the cost of enjoyment. By which I mean not being able to get excited over new sets because I know that I've got a 2-year waiting game happening. And even if I was willing to pay the money, actually getting the cards can be stupidly difficult, because this hobby is plagued by grown adults pretending to play the stock market by speculating over cardboard. So right now it just seems like a bad choice either way. So I think I just won't do it.